Welcome to the Infinite Star Connections. We are your hosts, Vivian Chauvette and my friend Jeff Demers. Jeff is the CEO and the Executive Director of the Infinite Voice Project, as well as a contactee and an ambassador for the lovely, very powerful Ponti. I am known as an Arcturian hybrid, and I am also the founder and the CEO of Infinite Healing from the Stars. I work with people worldwide, but today we are absolutely excited to welcome our prestigious guest, Dr. Rey Hernandez. Even though he doesn't need any introduction, allow me to introduce him to you, and then we will dive in our time together. And I cannot wait to share the knowledge that he has to convey to us. Rey Hernandez from the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Free Foundation is joining us today. Free was formerly incorporated as a non-for-profit academic research institute on July 15, 2015, by various retired Ph.D. Physicists, scientists, psychologists, neuroscientists, and other phenomenal experts in their field and researcher. Free is a focus on researching what is consciousness by undertaking cross-comparative research on individuals that are having various types of contact with non-human intelligence. So Free Mission will focus on research, education, and support. And of course, the primary focus is on scientific investigation through surveys, interviews on individuals who have had UFO-related contact experiences with non-human intelligence being. Now, the list goes on and on. We want to hear about the new upcoming book, the research, how we can also connect with you, Rey. Welcome to the show today. We are thrilled to have you.
Thank you, Vivian and Jeff. And I don't need these accolades because I'm just an experiencer like both of you. We're trying to understand the weirdness that has happened to us. And so thank you very much for the invitation.
Oh, thank you for accepting our invitation. So, Ray, let's dive. I'm sure that most people may not be familiar with the Free Foundation, especially with Dr. Edgar Mitchell, and I know that you've met and worked with before. So, if you would, let's start here to talk about the foundation.
Okay, let me just clarify. The Free Foundation was disbanded 2 years ago.
Oh,
The
okay.
organization that replaced it is the Consciousness and Contact Research Institute, short for CCRI. Okay, and I'll explain in my discussions the reasons for that. The reason was because the Free Foundation was meant to do research, which resulted in this book here, 820 pages, um, titled Beyond UFOs. And this is the world's first comprehensive academic research study of individuals that have had contact with non human intelligence. And it was statistical, and we did it in five different languages. And this book that we published was our English language research. And the reason why we did that was because all the members of our organization, both the academics and the non academics, and some of the non academics were people that you might know of: Mary Rodwell,
Mhm.
um, Kathleen Martin, Dr. Leo Sprinkle, who's been researching with UFO experiencers for many, many years, Barbara Lamb. Okay. These are all individuals that I've been working with UFO contact experiencers, most for over 30 years. And then on the other side, we have all these PhD academics. So what we had, as I was saying before we went on air, we had your story, Vivian, we had Jeff's story, we had my story, and literally thousands of different individuals, their stories. But what we didn't have was the actual academic research in the form of statistics where you ask hundreds and hundreds of questions, the same questions to all of these people, and you're doing it in multiple languages, and you're doing it all around the world. Okay. And the result of this book, the research study, it took us 5 years to do this. Okay, 5 years. Okay, uh, and you're familiar with when we started, Vivian, and our research findings totally contradict what is circulating on the internet, all the bullshit on the internet. Okay, totally contradicts it, and no one can dispute it because this was something that was done with reputable UFO researchers with PhD academics, and we didn't have one or two or three or four. We had 10 PhD academics, and the people that were the organizers for this were Dr. Edgar Mitchell, the sixth man to walk on the moon, the father for the Institute for Noetic Sciences, and a PhD in aeronautical engineering from MIT. And then Dr. Rudy Shields, who is an emeritus professor of astrophysics at Harvard University. And then we had Professor Bob Davis, a retired professor of neuroscience, a professor of the brain, um, and Dr. John Klimo, who was a professor of psychology for over 45 years. We had a PhD statistician and numerous other academics. So, what we wanted to do in this book was um, to get basic data of what was the UFO contact phenomenon all about. Okay. So, later on in our conversation, I'll go over some of that data that I said before contradicts what is circulating in ufology. But what I would like to do is tell your audience members a little bit of how I got here, um, how I got in touch with, Mary Rodwell, Edgar Mitchell, and Rudy Shields. Okay, and let's start from the beginning, from my first experience. Okay, before March 4th of 2012, I was a total atheist. Okay, I was a materialist. Okay, had zero sense of spirituality. Okay, nothing, nothing. Um, I was an academic. What was my background, and I had been working as an attorney. Afterwards, I went to Cornell University, which is an Ivy League school. I went there for a master's degree. I went to the University of California, Berkeley, for a PhD. And Berkeley is the university that has the most Nobel Prize winners in the world. So I was in academia at the highest level, okay? But I had zero interest in consciousness, zero interest in UFOs, zero interest in out of body experiences, near death experiences, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then on March 4th, 2012,
That one day,
that one day totally blew my mind. And that after that day, for the next almost 4 years, it was nonstop paranormal experiences that happened to me. And on that one day, our dog, which was 15 years old, a small dog, a Jack Russell Terrier, her name was Nena. In Spanish, Nena means little girl.
Hmm.
So she was like our family member. She was like our first child. So we loved her greatly, and we were doing everything to keep her alive. She was taking a lot of medications, a lot of medicines for her heart. Just think of a 90-year-old woman, okay,
Mhm.
uh, taking lots of medications to try to keep them alive. And so on the day before, March 3rd, she became totally
Mhm.
paralyzed. Like she tried to move and she couldn't move. And so I called our vet, and our vet said she probably had a cerebral hemorrhage, commonly known as a stroke. Okay,
mhm,
and which is very common in the elderly. And then people become paralyzed. And so we made arrangements with him to euthanize her, to put her to sleep the very next day. Now, my wife at that time was a hardcore Catholic. Um, she's not anywhere near a hardcore Catholic as she was before. She still maintains some of her religious presence, but not anywhere near that she was at that time. Because back then we had to go to church every Sunday, every Thursday we had to go to group prayer meetings. And me, I was a total atheist. I was forced to go, um, to maintain the marriage. But so what happened was she began to pray all night. Okay, and lo and behold, the very next day, we saw our dog. She was still paralyzed. So I went back to sleep, and my wife carried her down the stairs to see if she can go to the bathroom outside. So when she got downstairs in the living room, she saw an object in the living room. And it wasn't a small object, it wasn't like an orb. And let me describe it to your audience members. It was like an upside down letter U.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but it was like this. Okay, and it was large. It was like 3 feet tall, 2.5 feet wide, and it was phasing in and out of our reality, of her reality. It was at one time was silverish metallic, and then other times was translucent. So obviously she had been praying all night. She thought she was praying to the Virgin Mary. In Mexico it was La Virgen Maria, okay, La Virgen de Guadalupe. So she immediately knelt down and started praying, say, that's my angel, okay? It responded to my request, okay? This is the Virgin Mary. And so then it shot light to the side, white light, and it started like with a green light, like scanning her, like that. So at that point, she began to call me, yelling and screaming, not because she was scared, because she was 100% convinced that that was her angel that she called down. So after I didn't respond because she wanted me to see it, she went upstairs. She pushed me out of bed. I got to see this. I got to see that. I said, what's going on? What's going on? You'll see. You'll find out. You'll find out. So when we went down the stairs, she was like 2 or 3 steps in front of me going down the stairs. Okay. So she got into the living room, and I was still like at the bottom of the step, and poof, she disappears. Okay. The dog disappears. And then all of a sudden, I had what I call tunnel vision. If you could put your finger to your eye,
Mm-hmm.
right, all around you, you can't see anything. You could only see in a little section. Okay. That's what happened to me. I couldn't see anything around. And then in that little section, there was an energy being, a being. And let me describe it to you. It was roughly this wide, maybe 2.5 feet wide, by a foot and a half in height, multiple colors. And it was radiating like this, like a desert mirage. I don't know if you've seen those pictures of people in the desert radiating like that. Okay. Multiple colors, numerous colors were moving about inside it. It was translucent, so you could see behind it. Okay. You could see the wall behind it. And then whatever this intelligence was, it took over my consciousness. And let me explain it. Okay. As soon as I saw it, I didn't care that my wife disappeared, that my dog disappeared. I didn't care that I was watching this intelligence. Okay. I looked at it, I squinted my eyes, you know, and then I went like this. Ah, this is bullshit. This is what you got me up for this junk. This is nothing. I'm going back to sleep. Okay. Then I turned around, walked back up the stairs. I went to bed, put my hands on my chest. I remember looking up, and then I was knocked out. I was put to sleep. Now, that is not normal for someone to act that way. Okay. And it wasn't until 6 months later that I learned that this intelligence can is much more powerful than anyone could imagine. And I'll go into those details later on. Okay. So basically an hour later, I woke up, and now I was fully conscious. I had control of my mental faculties. I ran down the stairs. My wife, poof, reappeared again. She looked down. The dog was running around the entire living room, completely healed. Okay. And my wife was shouting in Spanish, Los Angeles la curaron. Los Angeles la curaron. The angels cured her. The angels cured her. Okay. And inside my head was like a bomb exploded in my head. Okay. Like I was quiet. I didn't know what to say, what to think. I was like digesting what was going on, try to make some sense of it. Okay. So immediately I asked my wife, I said, where were you? Where did you go? I said, where, what do you mean? Where was I? Where did I go? Look at the time. It's seven. It's almost 7 o'clock, and we woke up at 6. Where were you all this time? She goes, I didn't go anywhere. I was here the whole time. You were following me. You were right behind me. And then I looked down, and then I was running around completely healed. I said, no, look, but look at the time. Look at the time, right? And it wasn't until 6 months later, after we had our third major event, I had called up this group called MUFON, and this elderly lady who was a retired school teacher, who's a researcher from MUFON, and then later on, her husband, who was a scientist at the National Hurricane Center in Miami, he came on the second visit, and she was the one that told me about missing time. Okay. I had no idea what that was because I didn't know any of these things. Okay. And she said, your wife had missing time. Okay. So, in terms of my wife, subsequently to that, I found out that she and her mother in Mexico had seen many UFOs. Okay. Lots of orbs. And about a year ago, my wife told me that she used to play with little people. And it wasn't one or two or three times, it was like her whole childhood,
Mm-hmm.
from like the ages of 3 to like she was 10. And
Yeah.
I said, "Were like they the ones with the big heads and the wraparound eyes?" And she said, "No, they were people just like you and me, except they were short, you know." And I said, "Are you sure? I mean, how many times did you see it?" She says, "My whole childhood, you know." And I said, "Were you scared?" She goes, "No, they were my friends. We used to play together." Okay, so she doesn't want to talk about it, you know. And I didn't ask her. We were doing something else. All of a sudden, it just came to her. It's like all of a sudden she just remembered, you know, that experience. So my wife, I know, has had contact, you know, for many, many, many years, and she already has that relationship with intelligence, off-world intelligence. And so when she was praying, it was like the biggest prayer she ever done in her life. It was like, you're praying because you're crying because of a loved one is about to be put to sleep. Okay. Now her mother recently died. Um, except and she was doing a lot of praying, but it was a lot of grief, a lot of crying, because her mom just died of pancreatic cancer. And as far as I know, this is about 10 days ago that her mother died. So as far as I know, nothing has ever happened. But when her sister died, you know, my wife's sister, she did appear to her in two different ways. Okay, but I won't go into those details. But anyway, so here I was. Oh, and my wife said that that object, that it was in the living room, that there was little people inside it. That's what she told me, and she described it as a nave. And a nave in Spanish means little craft. Okay. But initially, I didn't think this was UFO related, you know, even though she said it would look like a little craft and there was little people inside it. Because I always thought that UFOs were big, gigantic things that were outside, not inside your living room. Okay. And now I know much, much more differently. Okay. So then Rey Hernandez thought it was paranormal. So I was on the internet. All of a sudden, I was researching paranormal this, paranormal that, you know, because I knew nothing about these things. Okay. And then 2 months later, about a month and a half later, the dog woke my wife up at 3:30 in the morning, that magical time, 3:30. And so my wife went downstairs to open the door. And then the door didn't want to go in the back doors. She wanted to jump in the front door. So she never did that. Okay. Because where she goes to the bathroom is through the back. But anyway, my wife opened the front door and she heard this huge, loud, deafening voice. She said it was like a 747 jet was right on top of her. And I said, well, how long did that noise last? She said, at least a minute, maybe 2 minutes. And I said, what happened? You know, she said, all of a sudden I looked up and there was a huge, gigantic UFO. Okay, right on top of her. And I asked her to draw it, and she drew like a Goodyear blimp. You know but it was more flat. Okay, and she goes, "Oh, my angels came and visited me last night. They came in a beautiful angelic craft, and it had stained glass windows, just like our church. Beautiful colors all on the sides of it, right?" And so when she drew it, I said, this is not an angel. You saw a UFO, you know? She goes, oh, you're an atheist. You wouldn't understand, you know? And so that's what I had my first conception that this was UFO related. So now Rey Hernandez, instead of the paranormal, now it's UFOs, okay, on the internet. And I ordered UFO books to learn what was this all about. And then, like about 2 months later, my wife went to Mexico for an entire month, and she called down at least 4 UFOs. And these are huge objects. Twice they were witnessed by her family members. And I won't go into those details, but it wasn't like a little tiny star in the sky, like the
Mm-hmm.
people that do CE5. You know, we're talking about large objects that were very low. One of them, actually, I was able to confirm because I looked at the newspaper, um, and the TV stations for that the next day. And what it was that she had called down a UFO, and it was right above the Veracruz airport. Veracruz is like the largest city in the state of Veracruz. It was a port city. I don't know if it has 1 million people, but it's a huge city. And she was close to the airport, okay? And she was praying. She didn't see anything, so she went downstairs, because he was up on the roof. And then at 11 o'clock, her sister goes to her, Dulce, Dulce, come here, come here. And she pointed to the news, and it was they had like 4 or 5 reporters reporting about a UFO that was above Veracruz Airport for an hour, and then had slowly moved over the city, and then went into the ocean. People had filmed it, okay? And it was in the newspaper. It was on the TV shows. I've got someone that recorded it, so it was confirmed. So and then her 2 family members on 2 other separate occasions confirmed that they had seen these UFOs that my wife said was going to show up at 9 o'clock, but it didn't show up at 9 o'clock. It showed up at 9:30. Okay, so then I was like, it's September now. No, September. This is August of 2012. I said, I want to call down this UFO that my wife has been doing. And so I tried doing it. But in the beginning, it was just playful. I wasn't very serious. But then I got very serious into it. I wanted to give it thanks to them for healing our dog. Our dog was like a family member. So as I got more into it, it became much more loving, much more spiritual. And mind you, I have zero spirituality at that time. Okay, and so then I was right about to stop, because I'm saying, what a fool, Here I am calling down a UFO. I'm going crazy. As soon as I had that thought, boom, right on 30 feet away from me, on top of my next door neighbor's house, was this huge object. It was like a small football stadium. Okay, but it wasn't material. It wasn't solid. Okay, it was comprised of hundreds and hundreds of oblong, very long, round circles, streaks of light that formed the whole skeleton of this object. And inside was all this white plasma swirling around, and it was semi-transparent because it was a totally cloudy sky. You couldn't see any stars. Okay, totally cloudy skies. Then all of a sudden, this intelligence that I was communicating with, it, how should I say, it uploaded, because that's the appropriate term, uploaded information from my mind of my daughter's voice. And then it put it right back into my mind, but it was my daughter telling me something, which my daughter never said to me. Okay. And what it was it said, Daddy, you and Mommy have seen UFOs. Next time you guys see a UFO, you call me, Daddy. Don't forget. Now, we never told our daughter about these things. Okay. I had certainly never spoken to my daughter about that, but in my mind, I heard my daughter saying, I want to see it. So I ran to the window and I'm calling her. She opens up the window. This is like 10 o'clock at night now. Okay. And so then I said, run outside, run outside. There's a UFO. There's a UFO. So she runs outside. So she and I are outside. She said, Daddy, what is that? I said, sweetheart, it's a UFO, but it's hiding. It doesn't want to be fully material. Okay. And because of the radar. She goes, oh, thank you, Daddy. So we were watching it. We weren't scared. It was like we were being entertained. Okay. And then my friend shows up with his wife and their 16-year-old daughter. I was originally outside because I was going to meet him. He was going to give me a paper, a document. Okay. But he was late, very, very late. Okay. So then all of a sudden they come, they see this thing. They leave the car right in the middle of the cul-de-sac, like a semicircle, and they run to us. They both go, Ray, what is that? I said, you know what it is. They go, no, impossible. So then they began to explain it away, try to explain it away. So after a minute, I started to laugh because I didn't tell them that I called this thing down, So I was laughing at the explanations that they were trying to give, right? And so in my head, I communicated with this intelligence. Now, don't tell me why I did that, but it was very natural, like I had been doing it all my life, okay? So in my head, I said, you better come up with something better than this. This is like for a child, okay? because my friends don't believe you. Okay, give me something good, you know, not this bullshit that you give me. Give me something good. All of a sudden, instantaneously, without a second elapsing, what we were watching totally disappeared, and they were replaced now with hundreds of stars. But they weren't stars that were in the sky. They were inside that area that we were watching before. They were inside that area, and all of these stars were going like this, on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off, blinking, on and off. Okay. And then by sections, certain of these stars would like get big, like the moon. You know how the moon sometimes gets like very, very big, you know?
Mhm.
And so then it would go like this, and then slowly it would get smaller. And then it was another area. It would happen the same thing. Then another area. Okay. But meanwhile, all the other stars were like going like this. Okay. So then all of a sudden my friends stopped. Okay, because they said this is not normal, you know, because they were explaining it like circus lights or like the headlights of the traffic of the street behind us that was beaming up to the clouds and beaming down, you know. Then they knew this was not normal. Okay, and then after like a minute, my friends leave. Okay, and now I know they were there to validate the information for me, because it was just my daughter and I, then I might dismiss it. But here now we're three adult witnesses that were watching this, and then there was telepathic communication, as I said before, that took place. Okay, and then the way they got me to leave, which is very, very fascinating. Okay, all of a sudden they put in my mind like I was being attacked by hundreds of mosquitoes. Okay, because my daughter and I, we weren't scared. We were out there. Okay, just being entertained like a 4th of July, the fireworks. Okay, and all of a sudden I was slapping my arms, slapping my legs, and I couldn't take it anymore. So I grabbed my daughter's hand and I said, let's go inside, these mosquitoes are killing me. So we go inside. The door was wide open the whole time. Our dog was one of those little dogs that whenever they hear noises, they're ready to fight. You know, they're barking and barking and barking, like a chihuahua, you know, type of thing. Our dog was like that, you know. And so the dog never came out, but she heard, you know, my friends and all outside. Also, my wife for almost an hour. This lasted an hour. Okay, we were outside watching the show, and this thing was 30 feet away from us. We could have gotten a rock, and I could have thrown it and hit the bottom part of that object. Okay, that's how close it was. Okay, so my wife was one of these mothers that is always on top of our daughter. How is she, checking up on her? You know what I'm talking about. During this whole time, my wife never even went outside. She didn't even know that my daughter was gone. Okay, and I'll tell you the reason why. Okay, when we go inside, my wife was right at the door, and I'm telling her what happened, and I said, and we had to go inside because these hundreds of mosquitoes were attacking me. So then all of a sudden my daughter goes to me and she says, Daddy, there were no mosquitoes outside. And all of a sudden it's like I woke up, you know, I was in a trance, and it's difficult to describe. It's like part of your consciousness, like we're talking now, is fully aware. We're having a good conversation. I'm telling you things, you know, you're listening, and we're all fully aware, right? But with that experience, there's certain borders, there's certain limitations, certain boundaries. For example, all of us had cameras, okay, except for my daughter. Cell phones that you could record, okay. Did any of us do that? No. Okay. If we would have taken a video of that object, a picture, we would have been on the cover of Time magazine for the next 20 years, you know. But yet we didn't even do it. Our neighbor underneath, and his daughter, I think his wife or his wife, I don't know which one, they turned on the lights and they were like right next to us looking at us.
Hmm.
Okay. Now all of us were looking on top of his roof, like, you know, the natural thing to do would be knock on Pablo's door and say, Pablo, come outside. Look what's on top of your roof. Or for Pablo to come outside, it says, why are my neighbor and his daughter and three strangers just staring up on top of my roof? That never took place. That's not natural. Okay. Why did my friends leave after a minute? You're watching a once in a lifetime experience. Okay. Why did all of a sudden they leave? All right. So all of a sudden, I woke up when my daughter said that, Danny, there were no mosquitoes outside. And then all of a sudden, I woke up and I ran downstairs and I grabbed my camcorder and my video recorder, my picture, like I had a good camera, and it took me like less than 30 seconds to grab those. I ran outside, poof, nothing. It was gone, completely gone. And so I'm telling my wife what had happened, right? And this is in the very beginning, and my wife goes, "Oh, how nice!" Like she had been in a trance and she was waking up. Okay. And what I think happened is like they had a medical checkup, my wife and our dog. While all this was taking place, they were being checked upon to see how the healing went, that they had done 6 months ago to our dog and whatever they did to my wife. And so after that day, then I realized, I said, oh my God, we're dealing with something that's able to upload my memory, download information. I'm able to have instantaneous telepathic communication with this intelligence. They read my mind and they respond instantaneously, holographically, because what we were seeing, these were video projections, okay, that only certain people could see because that object was so large, the back of it went over a highway, okay? And yet it wasn't reported in the news and the TV stations. No one had called the police. So these are video projections. And then it was at that point that I began to think about that we are living in some type of virtual reality where the universal mind, universal intelligence, is working with us and projecting things to us in a virtual way, holographically. Now, fast forward. How do they give me spirituality? Okay. The very next day, I was on YouTube and I saw this video on near death experience. I had no idea what that was. Automatically, I ordered like 20 books on near death experiences because I was unbelievably, this blew my mind. And then I started 4 hours a day reading these books and also books on consciousness, the physics of consciousness. Don't tell me why I got into it, but it wasn't purely metaphysics stuff. It was really the science of neuroscience, the physics, the early quantum physicists, what they wrote about consciousness, the works of Dr. Edgar Mitchell, and many of the people now that work in CCRI. These are scientists that are writing about consciousness and the nature of our reality. And that was about a third of the books. The other two-thirds were near-death experiences. So as time went on, the time was increasing. 4 months later, okay, I had an experience 3 days in a row. December 21st, 2012. Some of you might know what the importance of that date. Okay. December 22nd, 2012, and December 23rd, 2012. On December 21st, 2012, the very first person I ever mentioned near death experience, the only other person was my wife. And towards the end of it, in those few weeks in December, she was telling me repeatedly, I need to go to a psychiatrist because I'm not well. 18 hours a day, all I was doing was just reading these books. I didn't shower. I didn't brush my teeth. I was uh, not into this world. All I was into that other world. And so on that day, my daughter had a fever for 2 days, a low grade fever for 2 days. So my wife had always brought her to this new doctor for the last 10 years. Now, 2 years. I didn't even know who this doctor was. That my daughter was 10 years old at that time. Okay. So I started telling her all of a sudden, I got some good news. Your daughter doesn't have the fever anymore. I checked her throat. I checked her eyes, her ears, her nose. I can't see anything. Maybe it was a virus for 2 days and it's gone. Okay. And then all of a sudden I told her, excuse me, doctor, have you ever heard the term near-death experiences? I've just read approximately 300 books on this topic, and it's a phenomenon that you need to know about. And many of the books were written by medical doctors, just like you, right? And in my head was like, I am going crazy. I've got another person inside my brain, that this voice just came out, and I couldn't control it. I need to go to the doctor, to assess me. I might be schizophrenic or whatever. And then all of a sudden, the doctor's eyes were like like this, you know. And I'm saying, oh my God, now this doctor thinks I'm crazy, you know. So excuse me, doctor, I apologize. I don't know why I said that. She goes, there's no need to apologize. How did you know I had one? And then in front of my daughter, she talks about her near death experience, which happens to be when she was a child. She had heart problems. She died of a heart attack. And in the hospital, she got out of her body. And then she described going through walls and on top of her parents, listening to the conversations of her parents. The doctor initially was trying to resuscitate her, doing the electric shock thing. And all of a sudden, when she went back through the two walls again, the doctor then injected her heart. And she like was shocked again, and she revived her. And then when she became conscious, she told her parents of what she saw. And she goes, Daddy, you need to find that lady in the red shirt and apologize to her because you started screaming at her because her little boy was throwing a baseball at you, wanting to play with, and you said, "Lady, leave me alone. My daughter is dying next door." You know, says you need to find that lady in the red shirt, apologize to her. So this is the medical doctor, the pediatrician, telling me all of this. Okay, and so that was Friday, December 21st, 2012. The next day, Sunday, there was a church gathering, a social function for the Spanish ministry, where all the married couples got together and they had a dinner. Okay. So my wife sat next to this lady from Mexico, and her husband was Cuban American, like I was. We were both born in Cuba. We both came very young. So she introduced him. So he introduced himself. What year did you come? What year he came? So immediately, excuse me, Max, have you ever heard the term near death experiences? I've just finished reading approximately 300 books, you know, the same exact thing. And so in my head was, I'm crazy. This is the second time it happened in 2 days. You know, I need to go to a doctor and to diagnose me. I need medication because I can't have this happen all the time. You know, how am I going to function? You know, so Max, all of a sudden, like, you know, his eyeballs pop out and it's like, Ray, I've never told this to anyone. Only my wife knows about this. And then he started telling me about how his mother died in front of him. He was giving her mouth to mouth and pounding her chest. He had called the ambulance. He was waiting for the ambulance to come. And the ambulance came. She was revived on the way to the hospital. And then at the hospital, she told Max, she said, Max, I was on top of you. I was seeing you and hearing you and everything. You were crying on top of me, of my body. You told me this, you told me that, you told me that. And all of a sudden, crashing through the doors, and she described it, a very heavy black man, like 6'3", followed by a short white woman with a blonde ponytail. And he said, Mom, how did you know that? Those were the paramedics. She said, I already told you. I was on the top. I was of the room, and I was watching everything, you know. And she even said that she followed the ambulance. She was inside the ambulance. All of a sudden, boop, she got sucked up, and she went to the spirit world where she encountered her husband. Okay. So
That's
anyway, that was on
that's
Saturday, and then on Sunday was my father. Okay. I need to tell my father because he was a pure atheist. So I told him, and then he told me the most profound near death experience of any story that I ever told. And maybe if we take a break, I don't know, I can tell you those details, but it was on the way home from my father's house after he told me this unbelievable story. First time in my life I talked to God. And so,
that's incredible, right? Let's
yeah,
just take a deep breath here, because I can hear people are really fascinated. There's a lot of engagement in the room, and I want to thank you for incredible sharing because your background is leading the path you have undertaken through first-hand experiences, awakening, research, and are we sensing that this is leading to the institute you're working with and the book? I
yes,
know you have a book coming up.
yeah,
So let
and also this book as well. Let me okay. Since that had that contact with that huge object in the sky and this intelligence, okay, and it was really the intelligence, not the object, okay. Then all of a sudden, for like I said, 3.5 years, I began having lots of different paranormal experiences, in terms of seeing beings, of having out of body experiences, and lots of crazy stuff that people would say were crazy. But the one that really was probably the most important of it all was I was driving my car in May of 2012. I had met this man who's not a man. Okay, he was a human looking being. Okay, which began a whole chapter of like 2.5 years of interacting with this person. Okay, but shortly, a few days later, after meeting this man, I was going to work in the middle of traffic, 8:30 in the morning, and all of a sudden, I was not in my body anymore. I was brought to another reality. And then this other reality, I appeared inside this wheel. Like a wheel has different spokes,
Mm-hmm.
like that. Okay. All the way, I was in the middle, in the center of it, and it started moving slowly. Inside each spoke is what I now call a contact modality. Inside each one, for example, was near death experiences. I looked at it and I got all these downloads, and it was visually, it was like an image inside of it. And then these downloads of information. So I knew that was near death experiences. Then the next one was out of body experiences. Again, I saw a visual of it like a movie and download of information. So I knew that was out of body. The UFO aspect of it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of the different contact modalities. um, Hallucinogens. You take ayahuasca or mushrooms, you're having contact with non-human intelligence. Ghosts and spirits, same thing. So all of these things, I was seeing it, and then this it wasn't a voice. It wasn't a voice. It was information. Information then told me that these are all the different ways that humans are piercing the veil of our reality. It's like a layer. It's like a skin. We're piercing it. Okay, and they said humans see them and are studying them as separate and distinct. But he said it's not separate and distinct. It's all one, because we're all oneness. It's all one. All of us are all interrelated. All these experiences are interrelated. Therefore, you need to see it as one. And the glue that's holding it all together as oneness, humans are calling it consciousness. But in essence, what it is the fabric of our reality. Okay. And then it told me what I needed to do. I mean, I'm skipping a lot of things, okay, but I'm just giving you the highlight of it. And it said you need to inform humanity of the relationship between them, whatever the universal mind is, okay, um, um, consciousness, and the contact modalities. You need to inform humanity how it's all one, how it's all interrelated. Now, while this was happening, I had no idea, what was going on. Okay, and then they said there's two criterias. You're going to need help. Okay, first of all, no, they said it's not about money. It's not about you getting rich. Okay, number two is you're going to need help, and the people that are going to be helping you have to be people with minimal ego. And once this image of minimal ego was conveyed, I was back in my car, and I was still listening to the same interview that I was listening to, and no time had elapsed. Okay, so I was literally taken outside of space and time. Okay, and and it was immediately after that when I got home, I got an email from Mary Rodwell. And if you interview Mary again, you'll ask her that question. Ray told me this crazy story. Is it true? That this happened, and she will tell you. Okay, what happened was I had sent out 10 months before in October an email to a lot of very famous names in ufology, because I had no idea what was happening to me with all these UFOs and things like that. And so Mary's email, she responded that same day that I had that experience, and it said, "Dear Ray, I'm sorry I'm responding 6 months late to the email you sent me, but it just popped up on my computer today." Okay. And so I responded back and I said, well, in the 6 months, this is all the crazy stuff that happened. And this is what happened today. So then she responded back. She says, oh my God, Ray, can we talk? And so I had never used Skype before. And she showed me how to use Skype. And we stayed till 1:30 in the morning, my time, talking to Mary. And then Mary, I said, look, I got to go to sleep. It's 1:30 in the morning. I got to go to work the next day. And then the very next day at 9:30 in the morning, I got a phone call because Mary had my telephone number and she had my email. And then the phone number, hello, is this Rey Hernandez? I said, yes, who's this? Dr. Rudy Shields. I go, who? This man is a retired professor of astrophysics from Harvard University. He's like Stephen Hawking. He actually wrote articles that Stephen Hawking was completely wrong about black holes because Rudy was a black hole expert and he was a theoretical physicist as well. And so here's this man calling me at 9:30 in the morning. And so then, and what happened was that Mary had sent him an email because a lot of my experience dealt with consciousness and physics, which I didn't go into the details of that. And so that was what Rudy studied. So he started asking me all these questions. And then I told him what happened to me. And he says, Ray, what you got was a download of Dr. Edgar Mitchell's quantum hologram theory of consciousness. And then he said that he was going to help me out, that I was going to be his scientific advisor to implement what they told me that I needed to do. And I thought, this man is crazy. He said, you've got a mission to do. I said, what mission? What are you talking about? You know, I had no idea what he was talking about. He gave me the telephone number of Edgar Mitchell. 4 hours later, I gave him a call. Edgar Mitchell invited me to his home, which is only 90 miles away. So this is within 48 hours. Of this experience. I was at the home of Dr. Edgar Mitchell. The organization was formed at Edgar's house, really, because he put the idea there. Okay. He said, Rudy and I already discussed it. We will be your scientific advisors for your mission. You were given a clear mission. And I'll say, these two men are crazy. You know, they might be brilliant scientists, but, you know, they're crazy people. I don't know what the hell they wanted. Right. So then I sent an email to Mary. I told Mary what happened. I said, look, Mary, I have no idea what I'm going to do, but if it ever happens, would you like to join the three of us? So it'll be the four of us. And she said, yes. So then, like 2 days later on a Saturday morning, I woke up and I already had a download of what exactly we would be doing. And that was the world's first academic research study on UFO contact experiencers. Why? Because we needed to get information about UFO experiencers so then we could compare it to the experiencers of the other contact modalities. I already knew that it was the experiencers that had the key to be able to understand consciousness and the nature of our reality. People like your information, Vivian, like Jeff's information of his experiences, my experiences, and all of these other thousands of individuals around the world that are having these major experiences. But in order to compare UFO contactees with NDE experiencers or out-of-body experiences, we needed to find out what UFO contact experience is all about. And we didn't have that. And so that's why we did this study. And I just want to tell your audience members that I will send you a majority of this book for free. Okay? Just send me an email. The email is info@experiencer.org. That's yes, you got it right there. info@experiencer.org. And I will send you over 450 pages from our book and our new book. And right there, Jeff has the book. So Jeff can say whether he enjoyed that book, whether it's worthwhile, whether that book is important.
Once I got past the first chapter, it was wonderful.
The first chapter was the analysis of our quantitative data. Again, this was developed by academics. It was quantitative questions, 600 quantitative questions, and 70 qualitative, where we asked open-ended questions. We had people to write written responses to these 70 questions. And we received more than responses from more than 4,200 people from all over the world, more than 125 countries. Okay?
That book is a must read for anybody that is listening. Trust me.
Yeah, and I'll give you more than half of it for free. Okay, just send me that email to that email that that Vivian posted up there a short while ago. And now, much of the data from our research findings very much contradicts what is circulating in ufology. And very, very briefly, I know we don't have a lot of time, but let me go over the major research findings. We wanted to find out whether these experiences were positive, negative, or neutral. So we asked more than 25 questions in different ways to get at that. What we discovered, just to summarize all of this, that in the very beginning, 37% viewed their experiences as negative. Why? Because of what Dr. John Mack called the ontological shock.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all of a sudden you see a being right in front of you, you're going to be scared, you know. And so, but over time, most of these people have continued experiences. Most of these people is not just one or two. You know, there are many experiences that continues throughout their lifetime. So the more experiences they had, the more positive it became. Towards the very end, when they're doing the survey, it was actually 4%. 4 out of 100 people continue to view their experiences as negative. That's it. Okay. Another aspect that we learned was that these experiences, only 1/3 are considered abduction type of experiences, where you're physically brought and taken to another place without your consent. Okay, but in only 1 out of 3, the other 2/3 never had an abduction, but yet the fields of ufology sees this as an abduction phenomenon. Okay, they're totally clueless because 66% of the people said no. I never had an abduction. You know, what is this? I've seen UFOs. I've had contact with non-human intelligence, but I've never had an abduction. Okay, now, out of those people that identify themselves as abductees, 70% of them now call themselves not abductees, but contactees.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because in their experience, initially, for many of these people, they had like a medical checkup. They were like, you know, paralyzed, they couldn't move, and they had these beings. Okay, not necessarily the grays. It wasn't just the grays, but they were having like a medical inspection. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, 50% of the people, 1 out of 2 people, have had a miraculous medical healing by non-human intelligence. Huge numbers. Okay. Just like our dog was healed. Okay. 50% of these people said that either them or a member of their family was healed by UFO related intelligence.
My
Okay.
eye was healed by Vivian.
Look at that. Okay. So it's very, very real. Okay. That these experiences are the healing experiences are very, very real. We in our book, chapter 6, is a book that was co-authored, written by Preston Dennett, who recently wrote a book titled 300 Cases of UFO Healings. 300 documented cases. That was also co-written by a retired medical doctor, Dr. Joseph Burks,
Mm-hmm.
also an experiencer. Okay, and they took 12 of the major cases and they analyzed, they dissected, they looked at the medical records, and they wrote about it. Okay, and one of them was actually Kathleen Martin, one of the most well-known UFO researchers. She had a medical healing, a miraculous medical healing, and her name was not mentioned in the book because at that time she wasn't public about it. Now she is public about it. Okay, we had another medical doctor, totally separate medical doctor, that had again a miraculous medical healing by UFO intelligence because he's a UFO contactee, and we had a DEA agent, the guy that retired. He was out in Latin America, you know, in different countries, working to prevent the drug flows into the United States. You know, a very high profile person, major contactee. He never spoke about it, and he had 2 miraculous medical healings. His eye also. Okay, he had an eye that he had lost most of his vision on. All of a sudden, he woke up. He was like on a board. Okay, he was paralyzed. He couldn't see all around him because all these bright lights, and he heard this noise. Tick, 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 tick. The next day, when he woke up, 20/20 vision. Okay, so
Yeah.
yes, and so the other aspect is the contactees. Okay, the overwhelming people that were abductees now call themselves contactees. Okay, out of the abductees, the people that were abducted, only 8% said that they're still fearful, that they still view it as negative. These are of the abductees. Okay, and those people are usually people that had 1 or 2 experiences. That's it. If you're paralyzed and you're being examined by the Palladians looking type of beings, human looking beings, or these little grays, and you only had that one experience, you're still going to be traumatized, okay? Because you never had anything else. But if you started with that and all of a sudden you're seeing energy beings, human looking beings, which are less frightful, and they're giving you spiritual teachings, okay? You're being brought to other dimensions. Oh, here's another thing, being brought to other realities. I'll talk a little bit about that. The second major finding that we had was that these experiences are transformative. These people's lives totally changed for the positive. They became much more spiritual, less egotistical, much more loving. They became caring about ecological matters. Okay? They became more consciously aware. They knew what their mission here on Earth was, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
On
you
the,
just my whole life right now.
the whole life completely changed for the positive, for the better. We're talking 80% of the people underwent this. In terms of death, they no longer fear death. Okay? Instead of having a brand new Mercedes Benz every year, they don't need materialist things. They don't need to be rich. In terms of wealth and notoriety, fame, prestige, that's not important in life anymore. Okay? We asked over 60 questions. How were you before and how were you after? And that's all in our book. We detailed it in chapter 1 and in another chapter as well. Okay? So again, this is 4,200 people from over 125 countries. These are huge numbers. And this is only in the English language that we have this book. We also did it in multiple languages. In the Spanish language survey, it was even more positive. Okay. Very few people viewed it as negative in the Spanish language survey. Now, the third major finding, okay, were that these experiences were not necessarily physical experiences. You might have seen a UFO. You might have seen a being right in front of you. Okay. Multiple different types of beings or have had physical experiences. However, the overwhelming majority of your experiences are considered paranormal in nature. Okay? Examples. 80% of these people have had out of body experiences. 66% have seen a ghost or a spirit. 60% have seen orbs, multiple colored orbs, many, many times. Okay? 50% were brought, like I was, to another reality. Okay? And the vast majority of these were to give you teachings. You know, most of them were spiritual teachings, okay, about the nature of our reality, the spirituality. Okay, 50% of the people were brought to another reality. Okay, in terms of near-death experiences, 37% had near-death experiences. Okay, objects mysteriously appear and reappear. Okay, you name the paranormal, all of a sudden precognition. They're able to tell what's going to happen in the future. My wife detected a tumor in my back. Okay, she knew that a car engine, if we went on this long trip, was going to explode. So she was harassing me for a whole week. Finally, I brought the car to the mechanic. Mechanic said, "Thank God you didn't take that long trip because your engine would have exploded." Okay. So that went on, the precognition with my wife, not with me, but with me. For about more than a year, I was able to know who was an experiencer. I didn't know if it was a near-death experiencer, whether it was an out-of-body experiencer, people that have seen ghosts and spirits, or UFO experiencers. I just knew it, okay? And for like the first 9 months, it was like guaranteed, 100%. If I met you and I had that feeling, I know you had crossed that veil, okay? There's a term for that, okay, of this knowingness, but that's very, very common among UFO contactees and also out-of-body experiencers and near-death experiencers. There's numerous commonalities between all of these experiences. The other fourth major finding, okay, so far we had these are highly positive, highly transformative for the positive, and these are primarily paranormal experiences. There's a physical aspect to it, but it's mainly the paranormal aspect. The fourth major finding is that these experiences, all of them, all of the contact modalities involve a manipulation of space-time. Okay? If you're having a near-death experience, you're outside of space-time. If you're having an out-of-body experience, you're outside of space-time. If you're having these UFO-related contact experiences, you're manipulating space-time, just given of the nature of your paranormal experiences. Okay? If you have take ayahuasca or mushrooms, you have a DMT experience, okay, and or a psilocybin experience, and all of 50% of the people have contact with non-human intelligence through hallucinogenic journeys. That's a manipulation of space-time. Okay, remote viewing, all of a sudden you're astral traveling, you're going to another location. Like this woman that wrote a chapter for our book, she was able to find children that were missing, and in one case she told the police, this little girl is in this house and she's hidden behind this wall. The police said, we already been there, she's not there, she's hiding behind the wall, and you better go before tonight, because tonight is when they're going to take her to another location. Well, the police got a search warrant from the judge. They went to the house again. They went exactly what she said. There was a little girl that was missing. Okay. These are remote viewing or astral traveling, where people, their senses are seeing things. Okay.
Yeah.
And so very, very common among UFO contact experiencers. This other lady was a major UFO experiencer. Okay. And so what we're trying to do now is we realize that from this book that all these data findings totally contradict what is circulating in ufology. Why? Because most of ufology are materialists. Okay, if it's not material, it doesn't exist. It has to be a flying saucer that they took a picture of, or a new video, or disclosure. To me, what has that given us in 80 years? A new UFO video? Big deal. You know, a new picture? Big deal. Disclosure. Talk to Vivian. Talk to Jeff. Talk to me. Talk to the thousands of people that took our surveys. The experiencer is the disclosure. Except you're waiting for the federal government to give you disclosure? Please.
Yeah, that's never going to happen. Come on.
Okay? It's never going to happen. So it was at that point that I realized that, look, this is not just about UFOs. Okay, like the title of our book says, it's beyond UFOs. Okay, so we had to do something different. So what we did is we disbanded the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Free Foundation. Why? Because everybody was seeing it as a ufology organization. We never were a ufology organization. We were trying to understand consciousness and the UFO contact experiencer as the beginning. Okay, but then when I go on all these radio shows, mainly ufology radio shows, they would say Rey Hernandez, the abduction researcher. And so I would tell them, first of all, our book is not about abduction.
Right.
And secondly, our book is not about UFOs. It's about what UFO contact experiencers are telling about the nature of our reality. So then what we did is we disbanded the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Free Foundation. And by then, Dr. Mitchell had died. Okay, so almost all of the scientists, we then developed a new organization titled the Consciousness and Contact Research Institute, CCRI. Okay. And again, send me an email to info@experiencer.org, info@experiencer.org, and I will send you information about our new book, which is going to be published on October 1st. Okay. Now, our new book has over 35 articles by Ph.D. academics and by medical doctors. And the first two volumes are theoretical in nature, trying to begin to explain, and not so much explain, but to present different hypotheses, different theories of what I just talked about. Okay. And then volumes 3 and 4 are chapters that are written by experiencers. People like myself, like Vivian, like Jeff, people that have had multiple different types of experiences. Not just they've seen a few UFOs, they've had a few out-of-body experiences. No, these are people that have seen UFOs, have had out-of-body experiences, have had
continual experience.
Yes, the whole, but we're not, very few people have had all of them. Okay, some people have had all of them. Okay, one is actually as a medical doctor. You've had all of them, Vivian. Okay.
Ray, I'm sorry. This is fascinating. It's just I like to engage the public with us, so that's okay. We have a question for you, if that's okay, Ray.
Yes, please.
And that connects to the book and the information you're providing. So Kathy is asking, how many of the contactees in your research sought out contact before they were contacted?
I would say the vast majority of people had some other type of contact experience before they saw UFO. Like, for example, like my wife, she was having these experiences when she was young. The vast majority of people have had something start when they were young. Okay. However, there are people like myself that I don't recall anything, before March the 3rd, 2012. Now, for example, with some people, it might have been an out of body experience, not UFO related. Or it might have been they had a near death experience when they were young. Okay. Or it might have been that they saw a deceased person. Okay. First, that was what triggered it all. Like, for example, Preston Dennett. Preston Dennett is a major, major experiencer. You need to try to interview him. Um, he's had some unbelievable experiences. He's now written 25 books. About 20 of them dealt with UFOs, and another 5 dealt with the paranormal. Okay. His experience started when he saw the ghost of his mother. Okay. And it was after that initial experience when he was, I think, 18 or 19 years old, that all of a sudden opened him up to everything else. He began to see lots of UFOs, lots of other deceased people. He began to do astral traveling, out of body experiences. And for over 20 years, he's been doing major astral traveling, now almost at will. Okay. And unbelievable what he says about that. So everybody has a specific triggering mechanism. It's not just about UFOs. It's different. It's about the contact modalities in consciousness. So to answer Catherine's question, it's not just one type, but many different types of triggering mechanisms. And that leads you to trigger other types of experiences.
Do you think that's what is called being activated?
Yes, that's a term. Awakening, Mary Rodwell's book. Her first book is titled Awakening. Okay. That's what's taking place among humanity. And what I would say is that it's started to really accelerate beginning in 1970 to 75, that 5-year period, because that was when the whole topic of near-death experiences became public internationally with Raymond Moody's book, Life After Life. That was 1975. The out-of-body experience became triggered in the early 70s with Robert Monroe's 2 books on out-of-body experiences. And that was, again, these 2 books were circulating all around the world in many languages. The whole aspect of alien or ETs, of beings from other dimensions and interdimensions. The Star Trek was the one that triggered all of that. And that was in 1970. So between 70 to 75, you had 3 out of the 4 major contact modalities were triggered to humanity at an international level. Now, the question I'll ask for Vivian and Jeff, was that a coincidence? Was that a synchronicity? I would say no, that this was actually a pre-planned event by the universal mind. Okay? It was pre-planned. Why? To awaken humanity. Why specifically? Because we're on the verge of self-annihilation, of killing the human species. Okay? With nuclear proliferation, with ecological catastrophes, with separateness of separate countries, of nationalism, of religion, all these things, that instead of becoming more spiritual, we've actually become more barbaric, more inhumane, less spiritual. And we're at the point of destroying our planet and destroying ourselves. So this is all happening now at this time to, as you said, to awaken, to trigger humanity.
Well, at the same point, you could say that we are at the point of self-awareness too.
Yes, it's self-awareness.
At that crossroads,
Correct.
Which way do we go here?
Exactly. Are we going to be heading towards destroying humanity, or are we going to awaken humanity? Right. And for us to recognize that we are eternal spiritual beings, that we need to take care of our fellow human beings and need to take care of our planet, because both things are one. There's no separateness, And like with near-death experience and out-of-body experiences, and also with the UFO contact experiences, the whole aspect of spirituality and love is the primary message that people are receiving. Okay?
Yes, and that's a lot of spiritual teachings that we're receiving from advanced benevolent star beings that come back to remind all of us of who we are. But about the destruction, and while it's absolutely vital at Capital to take care of each other and the planet, we feel from a galactic perspective that those timeline of destructions are already gone. We're no longer on that path. Consciously, we have shifted. The timeline has shifted already.
I believe that.
Don't you? Yeah,
Well,
I believe that too.
I think humans have been awakened to this,
Yeah.
but it's selectively, not all of humanity. It's only people like yourself, like Jeff, like myself, and other experiencers of the contact modalities. Now, the good news is that now you ask anybody off the streets, they know what is a near-death experience. They know about UFOs. They know about out-of-body experiences. They've all known about ghosts and spirits because that's been spoken about, historically for thousands of years. So now people are now aware of these things. Now it's a point of these people to become activated themselves, the rest of humanity. And I think we're heading in that direction, but I don't think it's a done deal yet. I think it's still part of. We're at the crossroads. Do we go to the right? Do we go to the left? Do we go straight? There's many different paths for humanity still, but I'm trying to be an optimist here. Okay.
Well, I always said that it's going to take one major sighting to convince everybody.
It's already done. There's many sightings. There's many signs.
But it's
everything.
Not. Everybody's got it. I mean, you need one major, flight going over, and everybody tuned into that. You need one, just one.
Is it not a little bit a 3D concept to hold on to until I see that I will be a believer, rather to go back to the true nature of who we are as divine beings and to recognize that our star brothers and sisters are already with us? Is it not part of the new paradigm?
Yeah, but not everybody is in tune to that. You reach a lot of people with one major ass sighting.
My response is that people are triggered in many different ways. The 3D people might be triggered with a major UFO sighting that's captured on, in the middle of a president's speech, outside,
Right.
So that'll trigger, billions of people all around the world. Okay. But that might not get everybody. Okay. But because essentially, how do you make that connection of a UFO with spiritual transformation and the need to change how we operate as humans? Okay. That's takes something different. That's where Vivian is talking about. Okay, so I think that people are being triggered in many, many different ways because I view it as all one. Okay, I don't separate between the UFO stuff, the NDE stuff, the OBE stuff. This is all of us interacting with one mind, the universal mind, that we are part of. We're not separate from the universal mind. When we are reincarnated here into our reality, okay, we are being reincarnated to experience, okay? And then when our physical body is no longer working, our consciousness, our soul, spirit, whatever term you want to use, goes back to source. Mm-hmm. He uploads the information about our lives, stores it in a Akashic record, and then our essence of who we are then goes off on another journey. And this is outside of space-time. There's no time associated with this. And we could be doing this in multiple different types of realities. We could be doing in terms of a multiverse with some other types of being or intelligence in another reality. We are reincarnating there, So this is all simultaneously outside of space-time. So, but in terms of, for future reincarnations, okay, we need to make this place bettable, hospitable, and suitable for people to make it more loving and protective of our planet. If not, what I think is that we're going to become extinct and then we're going to be repopulated again, okay, in 20,000 years, 30,000 years after our planet heals up again, and it'll start again, okay, until we get an evolution that is finally loving and spiritual and takes care of our planet. It's like, okay, you get a do-over. Okay. Just like reincarnation. Reincarnation is do-overs,
Yeah, I lovingly disagree with you, Ray, on that one. I think we're past that paradigm. Seriously are. We need to really see where we're heading because there's such a much bigger design coming in. And I feel like it's oscillating between 1 foot in higher consciousness and 1 foot in 3D consciousness here. That's just my impression, but I disagree with that, and that's okay.
Well, I mean, there's no right or wrong answers to all of this. All I'm just saying is right now where we're at with humanity, it looks very painful. It looks like we have way, way more to go. But the point is that we need to be able to educate humanity of where we need to go. Okay, it's the transition, it's the awakening, and that's what I see myself doing, helping to do, to promote what the research is telling us about experiencers, because as I said before, it's the experiencers, not just UFO contact experiencers, but NDE experiencers, OBE experiencers, people that do remote viewing, people that take hallucinogens. It's all of these experiences that have pierced the veil of our reality. These are the ones that have the information of what our reality is all about. Okay, none of us have all the answers, but we have bits and pieces of it. And so that's what we're trying to do with this organization, because eventually we're going to be starting also an academic research study of the experiencers of the contact modalities. Our new book, it does not have new data. Okay, our new book, the first two volumes, is just putting out theories. Okay, from the academics and the medical doctors, and then the experiencers are also going to be telling their theories. Okay, from their experiences. So it's getting both sides together, and so what that book is doing is laying out the framework. That all is oneness. Okay, that consciousness is primary, and that's the term that we use. That the nature of our reality is primary, not our 3D material reality. Our 3D material reality is Maya. It's an illusion. Okay, our real reality is consciousness based. It's underneath it, and it's the universal mind behind it. And these concepts are not novel concepts to Rey Hernandez. No, they've been talked about for thousands of years. In the Vedic tradition, the Hindu tradition, the Buddhist tradition, all the ancient mystics, Greeks, Romans, the Middle Eastern traditions. They've spoken about all of this. The metaphysical traditions. Okay. But what we're showing is that the experiences of people, the experiencers, are validating this whole tradition. Okay. And so anyway, I don't know if there's any more questions in terms of from the chat room.
Thank you so much, because this is just, there's so much engagement. The energy in the chat room is phenomenal. I can hear that people are really related to what you are saying, the research material, bringing to oneness. You absolutely in that really beautiful energy that we are ultimately part of the singularity mind of Prime Creator, that one mind, that one consciousness. And I think it's just absolutely amazing. So we invite people to ask a question to our guest today. This is a golden opportunity to interact directly with Rey, whether it's upcoming book. And you mentioned, Rey, also, I think the upcoming book is called A Greater Reality. Is that correct?
Yeah, let me give you the full title of it. It is called A Greater Reality, the New Paradigm of Non-Local Consciousness, the Paranormal, and the Contact Modalities. Okay, and what we're trying to do is to provide both theoretical explanations from scientists and medical doctors and from experiencers of the nature of our reality. Okay, and this is not research data, not research studies. No, this is just introducing these concepts that we're all one, that consciousness is primary, and that all of the contact modalities, UFOs, NDEs, OBEs, people see ghosts and spirits, people that are having contact with different types of beings, whatever, that this is all one phenomenon and needs to be seen as one and not as putting people in little boxes. Okay, this is the UFO box, this is the near-death experience box, this is the out-of-body experience box. That it's all behind the scenes, it's all one mind that's triggering all of this, and it's triggering it in many different ways because we're all separate individuals. Okay, and so each of us are having our own unique experiences, but it's all coming from oneness.
Now, can you have a shared consciousness with a being?
Oh, of course. Many of our chapters in our book have that. For example, there's one chapter specifically by this man. His name is Yossi Ronan. And Yossi Ronan never had any paranormal experiences. Okay, none whatsoever. All of a sudden, he goes to take a nap in the afternoon, and for the first time ever in his life, he pops out of his body. So he's looking at his body underneath, sleeping, and all of a sudden he's hearing some noises in the room. Okay. And he looks around, he's these little grays. Okay. They're like looking through his papers and researching things. And he was like, oh, I know them, they're very familiar to me, but he's peaceful. He's not scared or anything at all, and that lasts for a certain time. All of a sudden, boom, he's back in his body and he wakes up and he hears these noises around. He says, I got a burglar in my room, right? So he gets up and he looks, these grays were there. Okay. And then he had a mind melt with their mind, and he described them as one mind. It wasn't like 4 or 5 different types of grays with different minds. He says all of them were one mind, and they thought together, they interacted together, and so they merged with his mind, and they let his consciousness inside of their mind. So he was actually unified with oneness. Okay, and
that's my point.
Yes.
You just proved my point.
Yes, correct. And that's just one story. But our book has many of these types of stories where you actually merge with the one mind. Other people do it through transcendental meditation. Other people do it through near-death experiences. Other people do it through out-of-body experiences. And again, it's where your consciousness is merging with the universal mind. And it doesn't.
Would you consider harmonization the same thing?
Well, we're getting into semantics and terminologies. It's the way I describe it is like a merging of minds, of consciousness. Okay. For example, people are having near-death experience. Edgar had it in space, coming back from the moon. Okay.
Right.
Let me very briefly describe this. Okay. He said that many cosmonauts and astronauts had the same or similar experience. Okay. All of a sudden, he's coming back from the moon, and he gets like this download that we're all interconnected, that there's no separateness, that we're all unified, all of the minds, all of the consciousness. And it wasn't just that thought, it was like a lot of similar thoughts relating to this topic. It was like tons of data all at one time. And then just as quickly, boom, that knowingness totally disappeared. Okay. You have people that have had near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences would tell you the same exact thing. It's like when I was up there in that other reality, I knew everything. Okay. I knew, God. I knew the new universal mind. I knew that we're all interrelated. I had all this knowledge, but all of a sudden, I can't remember it anymore. Okay. People that have had UFO contact experiences with beings, tons of people. All of a sudden, the being was giving me all this information, and now it's like you only remember a little part of it, but that it was like a huge, gigantic Akashic records of information. Okay. So what I'm saying is that all of these experiences, it's all one experience. You can't separate it because people are having the same experience with out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, with hallucinogenic journeys, with remote viewing, the astral travelers, with UFO contactees. It's the same thing is happening. Okay.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ray. We have a few questions coming up from the audience for you. That's okay.
Yes, please.
Of course. Cheryl is asking, where does our consciousness go when we are sleeping?
Well, again, these are all hypotheses here, okay? But there have been some academic research studies on sleep. And one of the authors in our book, who's in his 90s, his name is Peter Sturrock and Stanley Krippner, specifically, they did research on sleep, okay? And then there's the experiencers, people that have out-of-body experiences. All of a sudden, they know that their OBEs start in that transitional state, okay? And a lot of these people that have OBEs saying that when we sleep, for the vast majority of people, our unconscious body goes back to source and experiences information. Okay, and other people, meanwhile, they have formal out-of-body experiences or astral travel type of experiences. So now they're not unconscious; they're actually very conscious, just like everyone here is talking and aware of their reality. So again, these are topics that you hear a lot of different explanations from. I think the best explanations are from the experiencers themselves. Okay. And there's no one correct or wrong answer. It's just different interpretations of the phenomena.
Beautiful. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ray. Richard is asking, what would you recommend to prepare for the future?
Oh boy. I think what helped me a lot, as I said before, was reading. For example, now what I do almost on a daily basis, if not every other day, is to listen to a near death experiencer, to listen to their story. So I go to YouTube and I click on someone's story and I listen to it intently because there's so many words of wisdom. They're all different, okay, but they have certain commonalities. I also try to listen to out of body experiencers and they're astral travelers. Okay, you're listening to these things is like you're beginning to understand the nature of our reality. So if you consistently listen to near death experiences, if you're an atheist, over time you're going to be not saying a spiritual person, but at least you'll begin to understand the spiritual aspects of the phenomenon. Okay, what other people can try, different other things. Okay, you could try meditation. Okay, with meditation, especially certain types of meditation, holotrophic breathing meditation, these are meditation techniques that induce what is called in the scientific realm altered states of consciousness. All of a sudden you pop out of your body, you'll go into different realms. Another thing is to do CE5 with groups around the world that are doing CE5, but don't associate it with Stephen Greer, because that man is just about money. He's about ego. Okay, do it with people that are not going to charge you money
Right.
to do this, because this is not about money, and it's certainly not about ego. Okay, and that's like the antithesis. Money and ego is run away from. Okay, but there's a lot of people that do CE5, and many of these groups, there are certain people, what is commonly called an antenna, someone that has had many years of contact experiences that can open up those channels for you to see an object in the sky. Now, for me, I don't need that. I mean, I've called, as I said before, um, four large UFOs and one smaller one, and I don't see a need for that. But some people have never had anything. That might be an eye awakening experience. All of a sudden, you see a UFO, and the guy that's the antenna is saying, "Okay, go to the left." All of a sudden, it's moving to the left. Stop, 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 stop. Now go back to the right, and it's going back to the right. Someone that's never had this experience and is seeing this, it's going to be a total triggering experience. Another type of thing is to learn how to do out of body experiences. And if you listen to videos from the Robert Monroe Institute, get some of his books, listen to lectures of Tom Campbell. Tom Campbell was the scientist, the Ph.D. physicist that did experiments with Robert Monroe. In his book, he was Dr. TC. And in his book, My Big Toe, TOE, My Big Toe, TOE, Theory of Everything, there's a section in their chapter in there, how to try to induce out of body experiences. And this came directly from the studies of Robert Monroe. So in summary, learn how to do different types of meditations, techniques, try to learn how to induce out of body experiences, and go to CE5 groups to try to have contact experiences, and go to YouTube and listen to NDE and OBE experiencers to understand their experiences. So these are all triggering mechanisms for you to become awakened.
Thank you so much. We're wrapping up very closely our episode today. We have one more question. We have shared multiple times your email, info@experiencer.org. The audience is asking, do you have a Facebook page or other ways that people can find you or contact you, Ray?
Yes, we have a Facebook page, which is for experiencers. It's not academic, it's not scientific. It's just, it has almost 8,000 individuals, and many of them are major contact experiencers. And there we trade stories. Like, for example, it's called Contact Modalities. Type in Facebook Contact Modalities, and our site should pop up. Let me just try to do it real quickly to make sure that it pops up. And let me type in here Contact Modalities. Hold on a second.
Okay, I did post it for everyone. I did post it in the chat room.
Yeah, it pops up, the contact modalities. Just type in contact modalities, and it should pop up for that site, and register, because you have to register. It's a closed group, because a lot of people talk about their own personal experiences in the group, and so we keep it closed. But just to give you an example, Preston Dennett wrote a story of someone that he had researched, that they had contact when they were young with intelligence. Okay. Um, and all of a sudden, within the next 2 days, we had 14 people that wrote about their own individual experiences with beings. With some, it was light beings that hid in their closet and sang to them at night, okay, and engaged with them throughout their childhood. With my wife, like I said before, is little people, okay. With other people, is the little grades. With other people, all these different stories. All of a sudden, there was 14 people that shared very similar experiences. So I don't think there's any other places on the internet to have people that talk about near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, UFOs, hallucinogenic journeys, ghosts and spirits, all in one from an experiencer perspective. And that's what the site is all about.
Wonderful. Absolutely incredible. Speaking of transcending space and time, our time together, we were like in time warp. I mean, we were like outside the linear time construct, because it went by so quickly. Ray, it's absolutely a privilege to have you here. You are obviously a wealth of knowledge, experiences, energies, and I can see how much there are so many comments, energy. People have been sharing. It's like a community has been forming throughout the entire time. So usually we always wrap up our time together by a quick clearing, a quick meditation that we conduct with my collective. So let's do that, just to bring like a beautiful seal of light to our time together, if that's okay with you, of course. So
Please, please.
everyone, already, thank you so much. So everyone, make yourself comfortable. If you're sitting down, feet on the ground, just if you would close your eyes just for a moment, and just take a few deep breaths. Just feel your presence, allowing yourself to settle in the new energy that you have received, the information, any form of expansion of transformation that may have occurred during this episode. We are grateful for your presence, your light, your knowledge. We are grateful for everyone who's joining us every time, as we are forming a community of light around the globe. And we also in oneness with universal consciousness that we are part of. So just breathe deeply into your heart. Invite the sacredness of your being. Within your sacred space, just feel your presence. Honoring also your physical form for allowing you to move through space and time and interact with others, experiencing the bridge between the physicality and the non-physicality. And we invite you to open yourself to receiving a greater flow of pure divine life force energy flowing through you, expanding also into your subtle bodies of light. And breathe in the oneness of who you are, as you are connected to all there is, and all there is connected to you. We invite you also to feel all life evolving on this earth, including the planet herself, and to feel that we are in that divine synergy of interconnectedness with divine love, the ultimate substance of all, supreme love that permeates your entire being, your cells, your organs, your chakra system, every aspect of your physical form, and the essence of who you are. Feel that I am pure love and I am pure light. Let's take a deep cleansing breath through your heart. Breathe in and release. Feel that you are present anchored into your light, refreshed and balanced. And remember that you are loved beyond words. And so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're all welcome to open your eyes and reintegrate into your physical space. Welcome back. Beautiful.
Well, Vivian, love is the ultimate paradigm, but it's the most difficult concept to even begin to master.
Well, we believe that love, it's a state of beingness and has nothing to do with perceiving it or understanding or being able to comprehend a concept. It's who we are. It's our divine essence. And that's how we feel about love that permeates everything.
Yeah, that's so correct. Love permeates everything. Totally agree with you 110%.
Beautiful. Again, on behalf of Jeff, myself, and everyone who has tuned in today and will be tuning in, it's been an absolute privilege to have you with us, Ray. And we hope that you will, in the future, accept further invitation to return and share more, especially with the new book coming up in the fall, and also all many other experiences coming your way. So we are very grateful for you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you, Jeff, for this honor.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. We will see you in September for more episodes here on the Infinite Star Connections. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Vivian Chauvet, Galactic Healer, like us, so you can also receive the reminders, and also on our Facebook page, the Infinite Star Connections. And make sure you also connect with Ray at the Facebook page and also through the email address. Thank you so much. Namaste.